screen. You should just accept, and it's going to take you to the stage.
It's really interesting, actually. I have to say, compared to Twitter Spaces, I think Discord has the better product. All of this stuff is obviously riffing off Clubhouse. But yeah, Philip, you should be able to see like a green bar at the top of your screen now.
Welcome, everybody. We're waiting for Philip to join from the audience on the speaker panel, and then we can start the AMA. As you see, already 45 people in there, and plenty on the video platforms.
Do you mind sending Philip that invite again? I'm not sure if he got it, the speaker invite.
Yeah, sure.
Got it.
Beautiful. Welcome on stage.
Like, exactly on time.
I mean,
I
doesn't matter. It's it's a Solana year. We can anytime we do it.
But are we live yet? Are others listening into it, or?
We are live.
We are live everywhere. We are live on Twitch. We are live on Discord. We are live on YouTube, on Media.network. Of course, we're going to be on Media.network as Solana Funds.
Perfect.
You guys are organized.
And for those that have low internet speeds and maybe they're using mobile phones and limited data, try Media.network, guys. If you want video as well, it has the crispiest sound, image, and it uses really low bandwidth. No bufferings, no nothing. Really recommend it. So welcome guys. Thank you so much for being here. I totally appreciate it. It's a big week for SolRise. There's a lot of alpha to be shared, so thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Let's start from meeting you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did the team come together? How did you end up in crypto? And eventually, how did you arrive in Solana?
Philip, I'll go first, and then you can jump in and talk about the bit after you met Vodor. Work for you? Cool. So, I mean, there's three co-founders here. We don't have Vidor here today, but we have a lot of other team members. But all three of us have been entrepreneurs for a long time. We've done a lot of different things. I started off. I was doing the more corporate side of things. I was a management consultant with Capgemini, and then I worked for Amazon a little while, doing like management and marketing and operations stuff for them. I kind of decided, and this would have been 2015, 2016, that I was just going to throw myself into the startup world at the time. I mean, I got into crypto even earlier than that, actually. I got into Bitcoin stuff very early on, 2012, 2013. But I've always been haunted by the fact that I didn't go all in at the time. I could have been retired a long time ago. So yeah, that was how I learned about the value of crypto. But I spent a while doing management, consulting, and whatever, just kind of wandering between startups in the UK. And eventually I wound up at a place that was doing health tech. It was called Mesli at the time. And this was really early on. I want to say 2016, 2017, just under 5 years ago. And they had kind of like some government connections. So we pitched to them the idea to do this kind of NHS credentials tracking blockchain. And amazingly enough, the government loved that. We got some funding for it, and I had to go out there and find someone to build it. So I found a guy at the time, a contractor called Vidor, who is now our CEO. And together, kind of we banged it out, and it worked. We built a credentials tracking blockchain for the NHS. And ironically, at the time, we actually built a bridge accidentally between Hyperledger Fabric at the time and Ethereum, like a functioning like token exchange that we could use. We didn't realize until years later that we actually built one of the first bridges. Period. We didn't realize how important it was. But either way, like pretty quickly, I became friends with Vidor, and we realized the stuff we could do together was way bigger than any of the companies I'd worked on. So I dumped what I was doing at the time, and we started working on things together and prototyping. And originally, for a couple of years, we were basically consultants and contractors in crypto. So we were VGNG.io, which you still see around here and there. And we built on a lot of chains, like a lot of different chains. Shortly after meeting me, I think Philip met Vidor at the same time on a different project. I'll let him tell his own story and background. But either way, so Vidor's guys had already been friends for going back to high school. Like they'd been hacking together. They met when they were playing Counter-Strike when they were teenagers. And so they all started building in crypto together. And we bounced between project to project. We built some early stuff on Ethereum. We moved to other chains. We built on Cosmos. We did a lot of stuff over and over again. And slowly we became really good at executing. Like Vidor and his core guys there are absolutely monstrous blockchain developers. Me, I do the product and the marketing stuff. I do the usability thinking and so on and so forth. But either way, we'd been bouncing around.
You have a coder's background then. What how did you get so involved with building if you're doing marketing?
I mean, I have a little bit of a coder's background, but I'm an amateur. Like I'm not good. I've always been a game designer, a gamer, a technical person. So I got very close to thinking about like the social and the design aspects of how things work. You only need a little bit of code to be useful there. So I got used to working very, very closely with developers, which is an advantage in itself. And thinking about how do you implement like a real product, as it were? How do you put this together? How do you work with the developers to make something awesome? And I think a lot of teams actually lack this perspective. It's a really nice advantage to have someone who's thinking about the product, not necessarily from the technical side, but who understands the technology. Yeah. I mean, either way, by around early mid last year, we stumbled across Solana at the time. And Vidor and his guys were really, really impressed with the developer community. So we decided to put together for a wallet for it, which was Solflare, which you may have heard of now. I think it's probably the second biggest wallet in Solana. And we stuck around and we kept building, we kept experimenting. Around the start of this year, we entered the Serum X Solana DeFi hackathon. And we thought, okay, asset management, this chain might be perfect for it. Let's see what we can do. So we built a prototype of SolRise for the hackathon. And we came second. We raised funding pretty easily, and we've been frantically building on it and expanding it for the last 7 months. I guess that's the backstory. Philip, do you want to tell your own story there? I went on for a while.
Yeah. Let's hear Philip's story. It's an awesome journey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be really short on it, but I've been doing basically all my life. I've been selling stuff. So I was a real estate agent. I was selling a lot of stuff throughout the years. I also got my MBA in Vienna. I bought an executive MBA, and at one point in time, one of my good friends, who's also now a part of a team, basically red pilled me with crypto. That was 2017, I think. It was the first time when I don't know if any of you remember, but that was when you had whitelisted wallets, and you could actually, it was 0x at the time, so you could have actually bought from the site and sold it right afterwards on a DEX.
I was part of the sale. It was 15th of August 2017. It was my biggest
Yes.
August play. I had 2 whitelisted addresses, and I did exactly what you described. I went, I
That's
listed
insane.
it in a DEX on Ethereum, and I could not believe my eyes when my ridiculous order was actually filled.
Yes, and the best thing about it was, so uh, you could actually buy from the site. You could sell it on for like 2x at the DEX, and then buy more at the site, and then sell it on at the DEX one more time. You could do.
It's
You could
insane.
have done it. That was insane. So that was one of the first things that got, I mean, that would got everyone excited about crypto. But once you've seen what's actually possible and how a completely new world is building around it, that got me hugely excited because I've seen the potential. And yeah, I started actually. I had a syndicate with that exact friend, so we were a part of an investment group. We sourced deals. We were actually very close with some of the influencers at that time, and that's how I stayed in crypto, and that's how I actually met Vidor, because there was a regional project, because I'm from Croatia and Vidor is from Serbia. There was a regional project who was actually looking for someone on the development side, that was Vidor, and looking for someone on the business development side, and that was me, who could actually throw together their token metrics and so on. and that's where I met Vidor. And as soon actually as they started building SolRise Finance, and he saw the potential, I mean, the whole team saw the potential. Okay, this could actually be big. He actually called me and asked if I would join the team, and yeah, that's how we actually got together a few months ago. But it's been a wild ride since then.
Guys, that's an awesome story because, like, you are true builders. You've done this before. You've optimized. You've gone through change. You've gone through startups. You are educated. You've worked. I mean, you are the perfect people to actually be successful in this space. So, yeah, great. Yeah, long SolRise.
Yeah, thank you. But
you mentioned that SolRise is not your only Solana project. Can you tell us more of, like, what else do you have in that? Like, what else have you built in Solana that we don't know? Maybe the audience doesn't know. I most probably know, but yeah, let's see.
Matt,
Do you want to take this one, Philip, or should I do it?
I mean, I could do it as well. So, as Matt actually mentioned, the first thing we actually built in Solana was Solflare. So it's one of the biggest wallets right now. We are having huge updates with it. We're launching a mobile version soon. That is going to be really exciting. So this is one of the things that we built in Solana. So this is actually the first project. Maybe some of you don't know, but Solflare is actually managing like 24% of all circulating Sol right now. So that's about, I don't know, 10 to 11 billion dollars right now, and that's a huge responsibility on our end. But we're happy that so many actually people trusted their funds with us, and we're
I mean, your last update that revamped the whole wallet is pretty amazing. It made it really, really competitive. You're there with it's Phantom and SolRise. There's nothing else.
yes, exactly.
Solflare, sorry, Solflare.
Yeah, it's Solflare and Phantom basically right now, and it's great. It's somehow we always compare it maybe to Apple and Android in the mobile space, so we're kind of there, and it's hard actually to get in there between the two of us. But it's cool, and they're also a great team. They're also doing a great product. They're also pushing us to be better, and I think we've pushed them to be better as well. So that's it from the Sulfur side. Another thing that we built actually in a partnership with the great guys from Staking Facilities. Staking Facilities are the second biggest or third biggest validator on Solana, and are really big believers in the Solana ecosystem. And with them, we've built Solana Beach, actually one of the most used explorers on Solana. This was also quite the undertaking because building something that has 50,000 transactions per second as opposed to Ethereum's 12 per second is an entirely different ball game, and it's definitely not that easy. I wish Vidor would be here so he could tell you a little bit more about all the difficulties on building such a project like this, but that's mainly it. We also have plans for Solana Beach as well, but that's also interesting. So then came SolRise. SolRise, we're definitely going to touch more on SolRise later, but we also have SolRise Pulse. So this is one of the product suites from our institutional side. So this is KYC and permission protocols because we've seen a lot of interest for it, and it really ties in very well with the whole ecosystem that we've built. But we can touch on that a little bit later as well. So
Yeah, definitely. I have some questions on that move. It's amazing. It's like you're looking into the future. You're living in the future. So yeah, let's say I propose we start with the launch event of SolRise, which is around the corner. Let's talk a little bit about that. How you're gonna handle that? What are the incentives for people to play? What you expect to happen after this? A little bit of the timeline of the events, and yeah. Mostly, and the features, the platform features that people that join this launch should expect. So when are we starting, and what's the timeline?
So we kick off with Dawn 2 next Monday, October the 18th, and it'll be 3 phases. Each phase is 2 weeks. There may be a gap of a few days between the phases, depending on things. We're still working out the final timeline for phases 2 and 3. But for phase 1, well, the aim here really was to be able to robustly test things in a mainnet closed beta, mostly because it's kind of unprecedented. There's no protocol like this on Solana. There's a few similar to it on Ethereum, but none of them have taken the same approach. So we're really interested to see A, what people's feedback is, and B, how people behave, because we've seen there's a lot of hype, I think, for going into the platform. I'm hoping that we'll see some pretty exciting things over the first few months. But yeah, so there'll be 3 two-phase events. So the first is a closed beta with essentially the core fund management protocol. So for anyone who isn't aware, SolRise allows you to, in a decentralized, trustless manner, pool your funds underneath a manager who can then trade on your behalf. So for the initial closed beta launch, we're keeping it pretty restricted just because we want to test our fundamentals before we plug more integrations in. So there's a swap that we built on top of Serum, which obviously feeds into Serum's liquidity. And the managers will be trading on there, making up to them with how short-term or long-term they want to be, with the aim to make the best returns as they can, trading on spot on Serum in 2 weeks. So pretty clean at first. And there'll be rewards for both managers and investors. So we should be publishing the prize pool, I would guess, Thursday with the exact numbers. But although phase 1 will be smaller than phase 2 and 3 by quite a bit, there's still significant rewards. So we think there'll be a lot of incentive for people to play.
All phases are on mainnet.
Yep, all 3.
Awesome. Interesting. And you expect to have a handful of fund managers and plenty of investors, or the whole the whole phase is going to be people trading, meaning only managers?
So phase 1 will be both. It'll be both fund managers and investors. So the fund managers will be able to set up their funds, trade in real time, and the investors will decide where to invest. And the prizes for managers will be based on the performance they deliver on their fund. And the prizes for investors will be based on how effective their investments are. So on picking the right managers. For phase 2, that will be a purely fund manager based competition. The idea there is essentially that we want to let the investors going into phase 3 make a kind of reasonable assessment of what they're investing in. So phase 2 will be purely a manager competition, just to let people show what they can do trading with these tools and build up a reputation. For phase 3, we'll be opening it up to investors again. So that will be a full 2-sided competition with managers and investors, all of them competing to get the best possible returns. The prizes, obviously, we've set it up assuming there'll be less fund managers than there will be investors by quite a bit. So the prizes will be for the top few hundred fund managers. And I think it's the top 1,000 or 2,000 investors we're expecting to reward for 2 and 3. Those numbers might get changed slightly. So yeah, so we're expecting obviously to have a lot more investors than we do managers. But especially in phase 2, I mean, we're calling it Battle of the Managers for a reason. We want to give people a chance to do their trades in public, let everyone watch, and let people prove what they can do,
It's pretty awesome. That's and you expect high volumes to enter the platform. Like what's your prediction? People are going to start small. This is an untested platform. Like it's going to be gradual for sure. What do you think?
I think people absolutely will start small. So the first Dawn was a testnet competition, to be clear. Didn't use real money. But still,
Yeah, we participated even as a community, so I think everybody here is familiar with it.
Good. We had a huge number of users. We had 60,000 Twitter and wallet verified signups, and even factoring in airdrop farmers, pretty confident there were more than 30,000 people in there. There was more than 20,000 funds set up. It was really, really busy. And obviously the barrier to entry was lower as it wasn't using real funds. But if we could get even a fifth of that engagement coming into Dawn 2, I think that would be pretty huge. So it's very hard to predict, frankly. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but we are starting deliberately with phase 1, keeping it pretty small. So the investment amounts for phase 1 will be just $100 on each side. So we're testing the protocol without larger amounts. We'll be raising it up to 1,000 for both managers and investors in phase 2 and phase 3. And then after phase 3, we'll take the caps off so people can go wild. But I've seen some pretty interesting things. I've had people DMing me claiming they've already got like investors who've committed $5 million to put into their funds, and we'll see whether or not that's true. But I think it's possible that some funds in particular will become very big within a relatively short period of mainnet launch. But it really does just come down to how people perform. That's the exciting part.
No, I'm glad you guys added the caps in the beginning, so people can actually take it slow, because yeah, it's untested and people would ape if they were given the chance.
Yeah, and I mean, we're actually expecting a lot of users just because our reward pool is insanely high. We can't talk about this right now. We're just going to announce phase 1 for now. But phase 2 and 3 are going to be ridiculous in terms of prices. But this is what we actually want and what we actually need from the platform. So we're basically a two-sided marketplace. We need investors and we need fund managers, and we absolutely need to attract the best possible fund managers out there in order to use the platform, in order to get acquainted with it, and to actually retain them on the platform. And that's why we're actually doing these trading competitions and giving such high prices, such high rewards. And you're going to see it. You're going to see them, I think, in a week or so. We're going to announce maybe phase 2 prices, and we've got a lot of partners in there as well who are also going to sponsor some prizes and rewards. So it's going to be really, really, really exciting for sure.
Whole community is looking forward to it. So we start with a simple swap, and then after all the 3 phases of the launch of Dawn, are we going to see more functionalities be baked into the platform, more options for DeFi users, for farmers and leverage traders?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we did publish a product roadmap talking a little bit about our plans on this, but so I think shortly after mainnet, one of our big priorities will be to get the easier integrations in. So this kind of depends on how things go, the integrations and partnerships. But high on my list in the short term would be there's some stuff like options. I mean, literally options, not just options. And adding in, potentially we'd like to release yield farming funds before or around the end of the year. So, I mean, the reality is that might get pushed back to January. But either way, by Jan, we'd like to have the ability to plug into lending and borrowing protocols, staking, liquidity provision, and so on and so forth. So there'll be pretty robust farming funds. And at the same time, we'll be looking at what we can add into the initial SolRise funds. So which integrations would be best? As mentioned, I think options is pretty high on the list, but there may be quite a bit more. It depends on how it goes.
But yeah, and one of the biggest, of course, is the Serum DEX integration as well. So in order to have limit orders, right, for every fund manager, this is going to be extremely important. But there's also a lot of actually passive investing strategies as well, like doing index portfolio funds of these. We can do funds of funds. We can do whatever. I mean, the platform is so expandable, and the goal is it to provide every fund manager the widest possible tool set. But we need to be careful because it's not that easy, and it's never been done before in such a fashion. So we're going to definitely test it out as much as possible before we launch every single subsequent feature.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense you move slowly in every side of the project, because this is uncharted territory. This is an empty galaxy that you guys are in every on every side. Meaning, like, even on the legal side, things must be like extremely new in every.
Yes.
Yep, everything. I mean, but really, composability is the name of the game. Like, we want to, as Solana expands and as SolRise expands, we just want to keep plugging more and more options into there, more integrations, more services, so that eventually you'll be able to touch on most of the major protocols from Solana using SolRise. That's really our long-term goal. We want this to be integrated with everything.
So you can imagine yourself like some sort of a small DeFi hub of your own. So even, I mean, there's surely going to be people who are going to use SolRise just for their own investments. So because they're going to have everything in one place, and it's going to be really convenient for them.
I totally agree. And if in a world where synthetic assets are very easy to mint, and you can trade tokenized Tesla and tokenized Netflix, and have also some kind of prediction market baked into it, like you have unlimited possibilities. You can even have football games to include in your portfolio.
Yeah, that's. I mean, technically, that's possible. Yeah, I mean, we can do whatever. We can do NFT funds. We can do
Here you
prediction
go.
markets.
Here you go. NFT funds. Is this that's a question also from the grape community? Are you guys going to include such innovations as fractions of NFTs, NFT funds? I'm pretty sure people would want exposure in some kind of financial instrument that trades an NFT floor.
Absolutely. I mean, I think long-term NFT funds are inevitable. It's really just a case of, hey, someone needs to build a really robust floor pricing protocol for Solana. And that alongside fractionalization, I mean, I don't know who's going to build that. I think if it took long enough, we might eventually build it ourselves. But I'm pretty confident over the next couple of months, we'll start to see that showing up. And once that's done, once there's the robust floor pricing and fractionalization is in place, there's nothing stopping us doing NFT funds. I think that could be huge. So long term, it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, there is a project called Bridge Split in Solana that is building the fractionalization protocol. They say they're gonna have it launched before the Solana breakpoint. So let's see.
That'll be super exciting.
That's ambitious. I mean, I would want to see it.
Yeah, I can throw an intro if you want. But on the event, let's go back to Dawn, to the Dawn 2. Are we going to also see the SLRS token being used and being maybe earned? What's the deal behind that? How would this work?
So a lot of the utility for SolRise, we expect most of it won't be running for phase 1, but for phase 2 and for phase 3, we'll start to roll out more of our long-term token utility and to integrate that into things. I think by phase 3, some of that should be pretty apparent. So we're expecting, and where the exact timeline is still a little bit back and forth, but around some point in November, we'll probably be adding the functionality to be able to stake SolRise. And at the same time, we'll be rolling out more of the platform utility. So there's going to be several different aspects to that. But yes, I mean, there will be SolRise utility either for the final phase of the competition or immediately afterwards, integrated into the platform. Probably.
And when Matt says stake SolRise, it means you're going to lock up your SolRise for a specific amount of time and get a specific API on it. So that's going to be interesting as well.
That's really cool. That was again another question about single-sided pools that don't have the impermanent loss risk. That's pretty bullish.
Yeah. Nice. That's really interesting, and this is something that we considered because I mean a lot of actually Solana projects in their token metrics have a pretty small floats out there, so the circulating supply is really small. Ours is about 5% or something like that, and it's not entirely healthy to have it such low. So increasing it gradually, but not hurting the users with impermanent loss is a great option to actually increase that float. And if more and more Solana projects will do such single-sided staking pools, like where you just give it out from your ecosystem incentives, that would be awesome. Because you're actually rewarding those people that believe in your project and lock their tokens away. So you're basically having ambassadors of your project, and you should reward them as much as you can, actually.
Yeah, and at the same time, a lot of the other utility will kick in for people who have the token locked up. So they'll receive, if they're a manager, a higher share of the performance fee. If they're an investor, the fees on the platform will be reduced. We're also looking at potentially adding some kind of other rebates, so investors can get small shares of the performance fees going through the platform. The aim is really to make it so that the people with that SolRise staked, locked up, will get a lot of other benefits at the same time. That will be, at least for the near future, that will be what we consider to be, as Philip said, being ambassadors, being committed members of the community, and we'll be heavily incentivizing the people who do that with better conditions on the platform.
What about governance? Does it play any role in the governance of the protocol?
This is something.
Sorry, I'll let you take it.
Okay, yeah, this is something that we're looking into. We're definitely, interested in doing some sort of a governance DAO for SolRise. Maybe just not yet, because we intend to move extremely fast, and as soon as we have the basic protocol built out in the way that we intended it, we're definitely going to look into proposing a DAO-like structure. But we're also waiting for the DAO infrastructure on Solana to be built out. There's a lot of things that are missing. There's a lot of things that haven't been tested out, are unclear, and someone has to break the ice. Mango has done it, and others are doing it right now. So we need to see how it plays out, and when all the tool sets are here and people are more acquainted with it, then we're definitely going to consider doing DAO.
What about any kind of mechanics that will make maybe the token deflationary, add some burn, give this different kind of introduce some kind of scarcity mechanism to give value to the holders? Is there anything planned or anything like that? Should the holders expect anything like that, or there should be no speculation around the token? It should be just functions on the SolRise platform.
That actually fits very well into your past question about the DAO. So how we set it up currently is that the protocol itself, SolRise, has fees on it. So managers pay some fees, investors pay a small fee and something like that when using the platform, and all those fees are actually gathered in SolRise tokens and are going to be sent to our long-term reserve pool. So we aren't actually burning them, but we are sending them away and locking them into a pool that is inaccessible by us and will be accessible at one point by the DAO. So in theory, we're not burning them. We're just filling up a treasury that will be controlled by the DAO at a later point in time.
Wow, this is very smart. I love it. I love it. It shows that you've planned it well.
Yeah, it got us a lot of. We discussed it and debated it internally for a long time, especially also from a legal side, because burning can be somehow also a little bit dangerous from the legal side. But locking them away in a long-term reserve fund is completely fine, and I think that in the future, DAO holders will be very, very happy with that decision.
I love it. That's quite a lot of alpha. The viewers are taking notes. Trust me.
Great.
Let's go to the other really interesting subject you touched when you started, which is you called it SolRise Pulse. It's not SolRise Pro, which is the institutional DEX you're building. Could you tell us a little bit how did this idea come to you? Was it a reaction to something that was proposed? Are you preparing for something? Is there something in the works? Should we expect some big name to join SolRise?
So the core of this really, for the record with the names, Pulse is our ecosystem of permission protocols. DEX Pro is simply the first part of SolRise Pulse. So in the longer term, this isn't an immediate thing. We'd like to have a parallel track running. So for the DeFi protocols, specifically SolRise, there will also be a Pulse version, which will be permissioned at the same time. So there'll be essentially a completely, fully decentralized permissionless version, and there'll also be the KYC version at the same time. The big drive behind this is more or less, without KYC, institutions can't touch these protocols because there are sanctioned lists internationally of individuals who you legally cannot trade with. So organized crime groups, terrorist groups, whatever. And the penalties for doing this are colossal. So huge fines, prison terms for the people involved. You can't do it. So this counterparty risk, without KYC of some kind, they simply cannot touch it at all. And we're talking banks, we're talking hedge funds, we're talking, hell, even in the really long term, even government treasuries. Once you put KYC on a protocol, they can move things in. And obviously, even if those protocols and those tracks are separate, like the effect on an ecosystem or Solana from institutional money being able to move in would be colossal. So really, the DEX Pro is just the first step on a very long journey there. And I mean, Philip probably has some more to add on this. I'll leave it to him afterwards. But we want to establish that. So we want to allow the institutional money to come in the future. We want to look at where we can build ways for the institutional money to complement what we're doing in pure DeFi terms, where there's any way we can channel liquidity between them. That's in the future. But for now, it's really just about opening that door to institutions, because allowing them to move money into Solana benefits everyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Solana is actually the perfect place for it, because it's the first time an actual order book can be done on chain. I mean, except for some layer 2 solutions on Ethereum, but that's really, really interesting through institutions, because that's what they're familiar with. And that's where they know how to trade with. They know market makers. It's not an AMM. It's something they're used to. And it's something they're much more inclined to use than any other thing. And we've seen some interest even after launching. So it's still in the early phases, and it's going to be a slow start, a slow burn. But we've got banks reaching out to us and asking us, okay, how does this work? Can you please explain it to us? We're interested. We have been looking into the space, but we need someone who can guide us through it. And so it's the interest is definitely there. I mean, inbound interest, and that's what is exciting about it. On the other hand, I just wanted to tell that, just imagine having a SolRise Pro or Pulse version of it, so where it's actually regulated. So that means all the fintech apps that you can imagine, I don't know, Revolut, whatever it is, all these neobanks can actually tap into a SolRise index funds, a SolRise, I don't know, investor funds into a fund manager on SolRise. Because
it only makes sense. It only makes sense to give the ability to institutional players to come and enjoy those yields and add them to their portfolios and create new businesses from them, and really bring non-crypto people that are not technical, don't understand what non-custodial means, and on all these technical jargon, that just can enjoy the yields. Like we're seeing negative APRs in our banks in Europe, so. Yeah, and it's not only in Europe, guys. It's coming to a bank around where you live sooner or later.
Yeah, that's completely true. Yeah, and they want to have a slice of this efficiency that we have in DeFi, because the thing that is troubling TradFi currently is inefficiency and having to. It's slow and it's costly to have validators at every single point of a transaction. I don't know, swapping a big amount of money from one investment fund to another in the TradFi space can lead up to, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks. At SolRise Finance, you can do it in 45 seconds. Just withdraw and deposit into another fund. So the efficiency is key here, and this is what attracts, I mean, all the people that are actually in DeFi right now. But it also attracts institutions as well. But up until now, they haven't got a choice. They haven't got an opportunity to actually try it out. Now they have it. It will take some time for them to get acquainted with it. But once they are in it, they're definitely going to use it, because it gives them so much more profit than usual operations they have.
Are the two platforms, the two products, Pulse and the retail, let's say, platform, connected? Are the SLRS tokens still being used for the same purposes, and everybody has the same rules?
That's our intention. I mean, so fees at the moment from the DEX Pro go to the long-term buy and hold pool. They use to buy SolRise, which goes to long-term hold. And I'd imagine that'll be the case. The tokenomics and the token utility will likely be the same. We might make slight adjustments in the long term, but we've got no intention to do that at the moment. All of it will benefit the SolRise token.
That's another really important detail there. Thank you for this.
I mean, we can tell you something more, something even more interesting.
Yes, please. I'm all ears.
So, I mean, since we have a little ecosystem of ours, we plan to have to be to actually make SolRise as a token an ecosystem token. So whatever product that you're using that our team has built or helped building, then SolRise will in some way or another be used on our platform. Either if we, I don't know, generate fees, it will be used to market-based SolRise and put it in a long-term reserve fund, or if you hold some SolRise, you can get some extra benefits that you usually won't have and some sort. So we're making SolRise an ecosystem token, and it's not going to be exclusively tied to SolRise Finance, the asset management platform.
Wow. So can I speculate in that family of projects you're building to include, let's say, Solflare and include Solana Beach and whatever else you build on top of Solana Beach? That's you. Is this what you mean by ecosystem?
Yes. Yes,
Amazing.
we're currently working on it, and I mean that's pretty big news that we're going to launch. But I mean, we're not having these AMAs often, and we like talking to you and to your community because, yeah, I mean we're working together for a long time, and we like you guys. So yeah, that's something that we plan to do, and that we will announce, but maybe not quite soon. Maybe after Dawn finishes or something like that.
That's beautiful. Really, it shows you guys are actually building in so many directions, and that was big alpha. I mean, whoever is watching, and we have quite a lot of people, so over 120 people at the moment on the live from all platforms. I can't see media, but everybody else is way above 120.
Awesome.
So you've been building so many things, but you'll require to actually do quite a lot of partnerships in order to include all these DeFi platforms, all these strategies, synthetic assets, options, perpetuals, all these things. Are you considering building any of them in-house, or are you going to utilize successful protocols in Solana?
I think in general, we prefer to integrate or partner where we can. If we had something that was really integral and nobody else was building it, then we'd build it eventually, I think. But really, I think partnerships and integrations are the way to go whenever possible, because there's just so many angles people can take on Solana. And, there's so many fantastic teams building at the moment, and we'd love to be working with as many of them as possible. We've had a lot of different conversations, a lot of different teams. So I think there's quite a lot of people who are very interested in integrating once we're there and ready to do it.
Could you maybe give a shout out also on some projects that are actually building and you think they're worth following, looking at their innovations and maybe getting closer as investors, communities, builders, because we have all kinds of people here. So if you have any good partners that you would like to offer a shout out, we would definitely appreciate it.
I mean, both of the solid options protocols, the American and European style, so Zeta and Psi options, could potentially be very interesting. We'd like to be able to offer both types of platform, both on the platform, and they're really nice guys. Man, we've got a long list. Obviously, Serum. Everything Serum are doing is integral to our protocol, and that goes without saying. But they've got more interesting plans, and I think that the things they'll be unlocking and doing now will get bigger and bigger. The list of good projects on Solana is pretty long.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to integrate a perp protocol, but we're still waiting to see which will play out as the winning one, because, as we said, we wanted to make it a DeFi hub, and we don't want to give managers like 50 different options for the same thing. So we're going to integrate one of each. So it's going to be one future protocol. It's going to be one specific option protocol, but we have right now two with who are different. So American style and European style options. It's going to be one per protocol. It's going to be of one of each, and we're still waiting for a lot of them to launch, like also for lending and borrowing as well. That's highly interesting for SolRise, because you could actually borrow and hedge your strategies. So we're still waiting because we still need to build out SolRise itself. But once we see there's going to be a clear winner and who has proven itself and the community love them, we're definitely going to integrate those.
Fantastic, and I love the idea that you're actually considering you don't want to offer like the same service in multiple forms. It's just going to confuse. So waiting for a winner and someone to actually capture the market is the best course. I totally agree on that.
Because it's going to dilute, right? Yeah, and it's the same thing when you come to a restaurant, right? You come to a restaurant, you see like when you see 60 meals on the menu, you're not going to have a very good meal, most probably. But if you see that someone has, I don't know, 7 to 8 meals, and then you'll know, okay, it's easier for you to pick, and you know the